Hello and welcome to Happily Ever Reality. Today's recap is about Sister Wives, Season 16, Episode 4. This episode was pretty good. It starts out with Kody talking about COVID because that is really what Kody does. He talks a lot about COVID during this season. And we also see Christine talking about the upcoming surgery with Ysabelle. You know, she seems really happy. Christine seems really happy to finally be doing this. She looks wonderful when she's talking in the confessionals, and everything seems good except we all know Kody is not going. And he actually says this.
I'm not traveling with Christine and Ysabelle on the way to Ysabelle's surgery. I'm not going to the surgery. I think it's very risky.
I just thought that was interesting that he said that. He feels like it's too risky. Meanwhile, Ysabelle is the one actually going under the knife, but Kody is only able to see the risk of getting COVID. I think Ysabelle is the one that's in the risky situation, and her family should be showing up as much as possible to support her. But I digress. This is Kody, and he is very fixated on COVID. So I understand the concerns, but sometimes you need to get out your hand sanitizer, your face mask, and stand away from everybody and still show up. And this is one of those times. So throughout the beginning of the show, or this episode, we see Kody talking about COVID and not being able to go to the surgery. And we see Christine talking about how excited she is that the surgery is going to happen. But we do finally get a small glimpse of how Ysabelle is actually doing. And it is clear that her feelings are hurt, that her dad is not going. And she says this.
I think his priorities are a little screwed up.
So even though Kody tried to minimize how Ysabelle feels and tried to force her to say it was okay and she was fine with it, the truth is Ysabelle is really sad that her father is not going to be there. So it's just a sad situation. But, you know, Christine seems to be doing well with everything going on, and we know that Ysabelle has her mom to lean on. So as much as she misses Kody, I know she is going to be just fine. Ysabelle is not the only person having surgery in the Brown family. So is EVK. EVK is the granddaughter of Janelle and Kody. Janelle decides to head out and spend time with her daughter and her daughter's family during, before, and after the surgery. And I think it's one of those things where there's no way to fix the condition that EVK has, but there are ways to try to make her life better. And the family has decided to go along with an operation that will amputate a portion of her leg. It's really sad, but when you listen to Janelle talk, it sounds as if this was just the best decision for EVK. Otherwise, she would have to go through multiple surgeries that might not even have the effects that they were wanting. So, you know, this is one of those times you're watching something sad, but you know it's for the best. After we see Janelle with her family, we move over to Mary at her bed and breakfast. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. There's not much to say. It's the 150-year anniversary of the house itself. They can't really do in-person celebrating, so they decide to do it all online. It's really a cute scene. She makes some banana pudding that is famous in her family, but I did want to show you this.
Okay, I am super excited. So today I am at Lizzie's Heritage Inn, my bed and breakfast.
So she shared that online. It was a video they posted where it was like a bake with me story. My thing is, I just look at her face and listen to her voice. Doesn't she seem happy? Like sometimes we see them look so stressed and so uncomfortable when they're talking in the confessionals and spending time with each other that when you see them doing something that makes them really happy, it's almost surprising. Mary looks really happy at her bed and breakfast, and I hope she gets to spend a lot of time there. So we go from the happy bed and breakfast scenes and stories with Mary over to Janelle, and she says something really profound. It's probably one of the more profound things I've heard on this show in a while. Go ahead and listen to what has been on her mind.
That my future is the 5 adults in our family. Kids are going to grow up and move away, but this is my community.
So I think it's interesting. Janelle says she's been thinking about it recently, but I think Mary should have made it clear to all of them that that was the situation. Now that she doesn't have a child in her home, it seems like her link to Kody is almost non-existent. So it really is all about the kids, and Janelle is right. The future for them, those kids aren't even going to be in the household. What are their families going to look like, and what will their relationships with each other be, and what will it be like with Kody? So that leads to Janelle and Mary having a conversation at Coyote Pass. And I have to tell you, as a viewer, this meeting was incredibly awkward. I think you can almost feel how weird it is that they are together and alone. It's clear this is not something that they do often. And you can see there's tension because they immediately begin talking about the property, the pond, and Janelle actually brings up stuff that happened in Lehigh. And if you've watched this show in the past, you know there was a lot of issues in Lehigh regarding the way the house was laid out. When they were living in Lehigh, they still all lived in one home, and Mary didn't like the children and the other wives walking through her living room or the main portion of her area in the house. And so she made Janelle and Christine walk outside and go down from the upstairs or walk outside to go up from the downstairs. So they had to walk outside to go from the upper level of the home to the lower level of the home. And I guess the kids wanted to do that often because they wanted to spend time together. This clip is Janelle explaining it a little more.
So the only way I could get to Christine's house, inside the house, would be to go through Mary's upstairs apartment. She didn't want us to do that. So Christine and I had to go out the back door and in the other back door. We had to always be going outside to each other's houses.
So Janelle is definitely still holding on to some anger about this, and it seems like Christine might be doing that too. But their concern now is that if Mary is by the pond, she is going to tell them that they won't be able to walk near the pond or to the pond because it's invading her privacy or her space. So they don't want her to be right next to it. My thing is, maybe it was really a really bad situation and it wasn't resolved. But I'm a little bit more focused on the pond. They keep talking about it and then they show an image of it, and I'm going to show it here. I'm going to leave it up. I don't know. Is this really worth fighting about? I don't see any water in this image. I know there is water in it sometimes, but I don't really recall it it's not like a big, beautiful pond. I'm interested in how often are they going to be out there on it? I don't know. It seems like a lot of tension over something that looks like this. It's just a really, really awkward scene. It feels a little bit uncomfortable, but I will say they are being honest with each other, and Janelle says this directly to Mary.
I mean, I don't know. Mary, I don't know. It was a long time ago. The kids were little. And I appreciate understanding that it might have been a privacy thing or it might have been, but it always felt sort of like a control thing to me. Yeah.
I feel like for Mary, Janelle, and Christine, their relationships with Kody are so bad that now they're just finally letting it all out. There's no reason to hold back. You might as well tell the truth. And I guess now Mary knows. Janelle felt like it was a control thing. Mary does stick up for herself, and she kind of says something that makes sense. She felt like it was invading her space, invading her privacy. She felt weird about having Kody over with her in the bedroom and another wife possibly walking by the room. I can completely understand both sides of this. It should have been resolved in a different way. Honestly, Mary shouldn't have had that portion of the house. That's my perspective. If she wanted that level of privacy, she should have lived somewhere else in that home. They do interject a confessional with Kody where he talks about what he has realized about his wives and their relationships with each other. I think he kind of seems to realize what the reality is, and they're living separate. They're at different stages of life, and there's really no reason for them to have a relationship with each other if they don't get along.
Decades. For decades, I have been trying to get them all to function, in a sense, as my family. And I have discovered that my wives really don't want that relationship with each other.
So Kody seems to realize that. I think the wives actually all seem to realize that. The only one who's really left out here is Robin, because she only seems to have a confessional when she's talking about somebody else. And then she always, says she wants this relationship to work and wants the relationships with the wives to be good. So I don't know. I don't know if I believe her. I don't know if she's being honest during those scenes. But it's clear with Mary, Janelle, and Christine, this isn't a happy relationship, or they're not happy relationships with Kody or with each other. So Kody knows that now. This scene out on Coyote Pass does not end well. Go ahead and listen to what Mary says at the very end.
And
just
you
leave it
have
at that.
something you want to say about the original Lehi situation, or?
To be honest with you, I'm feeling a wall right now.
So Mary is feeling a wall. That is what she is saying when this is ending. They do talk a little bit more, and they both say they felt like there was progress made. To me, it just seemed really awkward. It just shows how much tension there is. But that's all there is between Mary and Janelle out there. And next we go back to Ysabelle and her surgery. Christine is just so happy to be finally doing this. She says she feels like a good mother. She's so happy that it's finally happening, which I imagine if Ysabelle was in pain every day, she is, feeling relief, feeling that there might be end to that pain in sight. And so it's wonderful. You just feel good for Christine. And she looks so beautiful during these confessionals. In the previous episodes, I felt like you could see her sadness. She didn't look very happy, but she looks lovely. I'm going to put a picture up. She just looks happier and lighter. And I think at this point, she is no longer focusing on Kody at all and is focusing on herself and her kids. And it kind of shows. She just looks better. She looks well and happy. So this is a nice scene to watch.
I'll feel like a good mom tomorrow. Not that I don't, but just I'll finally be able to give her what I wanted to.
So that is the recap of this episode. It was really a nice one to watch. You got a little bit of everyone and what was happening in the family. If you enjoy this, if you like Sister Wives, be sure to click subscribe and like, and come back for more recaps and news about reality TV. Thanks for stopping by.